But let's start out with Greg Palast, our old friend. GregPalast.com is his website. He's the author, filmmaker, and investigative journalist. His most recent work, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. And you can tweet him at Greg_Palast. Greg, welcome back.
Glad to be with you, Tom.
So first off, you have been, since before the election, on the beat of what's going on with election suppression, with voter suppression, particularly in Georgia. And I understand that the Lieutenant General, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you very much. Long day so far. I was up at 3 this morning. Anyhow, that the Lieutenant Governor is asserting, or at least the people around him are asserting, that it looks like there's 100,000 ballots missing in this election.
Yeah, what's happening is it's called undervote. That's the polite statement for there was no one voting. It just for Lieutenant Governor. Now you have to understand how hot this race was. So Stacey Abrams' running mate, people voted for Stacey, ran out all this enthusiasm, running for people voting for Stacey Abrams, and then not voting for her Lieutenant Governor. Excuse me. A lot of monkey business in Georgia. We know about that. We know about the 340,134 people, a third of a million people, illegally removed from the voter rolls by the Secretary of State. Well, he also sets up the machines. Georgia's back in the the dark ages of push and pray voting with push button ballots, that electronic ballots,
the touchscreen
and somehow
machines.
Mysteriously. Hey, people said, "Oh, I'm so excited about changing administration, but I'll just, I'm not going to vote for Stacey Abrams' running mate." That's like voting for president, not voting for vice president. So, yeah, it's suspicious. It's awful. The race was such a god-awful and obvious fix. Just add this onto the list.
Was forgive me, I don't recall who the Lieutenant Governor candidate was on the Democratic side.
Remember at this point, and that's the point. People just vote for the governor and the Democrat. If you're voting Democrat, you're voting Republican. You vote the party line.
Yeah, but my question is, was it a person of color or was it a white guy? Because if it was a white man, if a lot of the people who didn't vote for Stacey Abrams did so because she was black, Georgia's notoriously racist, at least the whites there. Is it possible that the Lieutenant Governor could have more easily won the election and you'd end up with a split ticket, basically controlling the state of Georgia? Is that what they were trying to prevent by messing with the machines?
They're trying to prevent the votes getting counted. Look, you also had the Secretary of State's election itself was a mess, because with all those voters removed from the voter rolls, remember you had nearly 500,000 Georgians who were purged from the voter rolls by Brian Kemp the year before the Secretary of State, the year before the election, who didn't know they were purged, no notice. And you had a runoff last week for Secretary of State. It was so close; it was within, less than it was about 1/10 of a percentage point in the general election.
And this is after they threw 300,000 people off the voting rolls.
Yeah,
Democrats.
So the Secretary of State's office should have also gone to the Democratic Party. It's not whether I support Democrats or not; I support democracy. And you had all these people not allowed to vote. You had people who were supposed to have. I was there when I have on camera, people denied the right to a provisional ballot if their name is not on the voter rolls. But they say, "I'm a citizen, I live here. You're supposed to get a provisional ballot." So Stacey Abrams went to court and said, "Count those provisional ballots." Problem: Brian Kemp blocked people from even getting those ballots to which you were entitled under federal law. This was, I think, the worst Jim Crow election I have seen in my career. I've never seen anything like it. So, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, all down the line, you had hundreds of thousands of votes not counted, not registered. It was a steal all the way down the ticket. It was just ugly, ugly business.
And Georgia's not unique in this, Greg. Where else in the country? I understand Florida's pretty bad. Texas is pretty bad. If Georgia's the worst, what's the second, third, fourth?
No, I would say Georgia is the poster child, because Brian Kemp, as Secretary of State, used every single trick. In my book, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, A Tale of Billionaires and Ballot Banners, I go through the 10 ways to steal an election. He used all 10 and came up with a couple more that I hadn't even figured on.
Wow.
Like not allowing people to have provisional ballots. I would say close to 100,000 voters showed up to vote and were denied the right even to the provisional ballot, which usually gets thrown out, but at least you could fight for it. Stacey Abrams had lawyers ready to fight for those ballots, but, she wasn't allowed to. So I would say Georgia's the worst, but, other states, Mississippi, Ohio is I would say, number 2. Number 3 is Michigan. And, by the way, it just shows you there was a victory in Michigan for Democrats. It shows that they can't steal all the votes all the time. So that's why I tell people, please vote.
Yeah.
They steal about 5-6%. That's the theft ratio.
Right, and then the gerrymandering ratio is also around 5 or 6%. So we need to turn out, 13, 14% more.
Yeah, you got a big detriment.
Yeah.
But if you look at the population of Michigan, the demographics in Georgia and Ohio, Republicans don't stand the chance unless they jigger with the voting rolls, mess with the vote count. And, and you try, like there's a push to get paper ballots in Georgia, definitely an improvement. But as we saw in Michigan in November 2016, where Trump supposedly won by 10,700 votes, you had 75,355 paper ballots out of Detroit and Flint never counted. Whose ballots were those? Out of Motown. Well, Trump didn't win Michigan. So even paper ballots are not the magic bullet cure for this.
Right.
Diligence, overwhelming the steal, showing up with more votes than they can steal. That's the only solution in the end. Though of course we should push for paper ballots. We should push to stop this game of erasing voters from the voter rolls.
Yeah, and when you say Trump didn't win Michigan, you mean actually, not. The official word is that he won Michigan by like 12,000 votes.
10,700 votes because they didn't count 75,355 paper ballots out of Detroit. Because the machines, 87 machines, because you have a paper ballot, but you have machine readers, and the machine readers broke down. And by the way, the Republican governor who had control of Detroit, because Detroit was bankrupt and he took management control of Detroit, was informed that those machines were not working. And he said, what a terrible, terrible shame that those poor black folks will cast ballots which we know will not get counted. This is stunning. And by the way, when I'm talking to Europeans, they can't believe this stuff, Tom.
Yeah.
They just can't believe it.
Yeah. Greg, we're going to hit a break real quick here, but you also, George Herbert Walker Bush was laid to rest a week or so ago, and we did an hour-long special on the crimes of George Herbert Walker Bush. You had something that I didn't even know about, that he made a fortune and 50 people died?
That's right. 50 miners were buried alive in a gold field at George Bush's gold mining company. Bet you didn't know he had a gold mining company.
No, I didn't.
And what happened was Bush's gold mining operations, part of Barrick, he was a big advisor to Barrick. He was helping them buy a field in Tanzania. And what happened was the field was already owned by jewelry miners, people who have like 30-foot deep small mines that they dig out, and they get little teeny pieces of gold for jewelry. Mm. And to clear that area to sell the property to George Bush, the government and a private company that was selling to Bush ran bulldozers over the property, filled in those jewelry miners' mines. 50 miners were still in those mines. The reason why you didn't hear it is when I published that story in The Guardian was sued by George Bush and his gold mining company, or I should say by the gold mining company, and that scared the hell out of U.S. papers, including the New York Times, which were scared. By the way, my lawyer, Floyd Abrams, also the New York Times lawyer, said, look, they won't run the story because even though they'll get sued and they'll win, we have a First Amendment in the U.S., they don't want to spend the $500,000 to tell the story of this genocide. It is a mass killing, a mass murder that enriched George Bush, we understand, to the tune of millions of dollars, George Bush Sr., after he became president. And I got to tell you that my source, one of my sources, who corroborated the story and got me out the evidence, videotapes. It was horrible photos. If you go to gregpalast.com, you'll see, I just want to warn you, some pretty grim photo, that he was shot 12 times. He's taken 12 bullets to help me get this story out and other stories about the crimes in Tanzania and tell the truth about Bush's gold mining operation. So while, yeah, I mean, Bush got a burial with pomp and circumstance, these 50 miners just got bulldozed over and forgotten. And I'm sorry. So, you know, yes, I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but how about the 50 miners? How should we speak about them?
Yeah, what a story. Greg Palast, you can find it all at Greg Palast, P-A-L-A-S-T, gregpalast.com, and you can tweet Greg, Greg_Palast. Greg, thanks a lot for dropping by.